Welcome to the City of Sanford's Sanford Says podcast. My name is Lisa Holder, Chief Communications and Cultural Affairs Administrator for the City of Sanford. And today's podcast episode is very interesting. It's about the State Road 417 to Orlando Sanford International Airport connector. And we have three very knowledgeable and incredible guests with us today. Tom Tomerlin is the City of Sanford's Economic Development Director. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Lisa.
Brian Hutchings is the Manager of Communications for the Central Florida Expressway Authority. And
Good morning.
And Kathy Putnam is the Tollway Services Program Manager for Quest, which I'm assuming works with a consultant with the Expressway Authority. Is that correct?
That's correct. We do all the public information and public outreach services for the Central Florida Expressway Authority's work program.
Okay. And I have to say, I use the 417 a lot because I live in Sanford, and I think it's a great road to get everywhere without having to use the public highways if you don't need to. So let's get going on the podcast. We're going to talk about how this connector relates to the big picture of the city of Sanford. Tom, can you give us some pointers on that?
Sure,
please?
Lisa. Lisa, what I want to do is first kick off this podcast and say I'm just thrilled to have Kathy and Brian here to talk about this very exciting project. So they'll get into a little bit more of the details on exactly what this means in terms of where it would be located and what kind of linkages it would have. But what I wanted to do was just kind of set the table, big picture, as you asked. In big picture, we have the Orlando Sanford International Airport. Allegiant flies out of there, and they are the dominant commercial carrier. But the airport I've always referred to as one of those economic engines for the city of Sanford. As a matter of fact, the airport is really the largest economic engine for the city of Sanford because it has so much more potential to grow. And part of having that airport grow is not just with commercial air service for passengers, but also things like cargo and things like MROs. MRO is an acronym that stands for maintenance, repair, overhaul type aviation jobs. So it's exciting to think that, the Orlando Sanford International Airport is already an employment center, but it has so much room to grow and it's going to only get larger. What we're going to talk about today is an ability to have that airport link up even better with the overall region.
Yeah.
Because of this very large, I'll just call it the very large off-ramp. I know our CFX partners will have better terminology for that. But by virtue of having the 417 connect directly to the front door of Orlando Sanford International Airport, what that means is it's really just a game changer in terms of the movement of both people and products to that. And so I just can't wait to hear from Kathy and Brian. And thank you.
Yeah, the game changer, that's pretty big description of this project, I would imagine. And so it's equal to the growth that we're seeing in our community and in this area. So Kathy, do you want to share with us what this, it's actually a study, a concept feasibility and mobility study that's taking place, correct?
That's exactly right. So CFX is studying a potential new direct connection between State Road 417 and the Orlando Sanford International Airport. And the concept feasibility and mobility, or CF&M study, is an early phase of study. Now, CFX several years ago had an earlier study that was produced, and at that time it indicated that a connector really wasn't financially feasible. Now, last year, the Seminole County Commission asked CFX to conduct another feasibility study, go back and evaluate options to be able to give travelers a more direct route between the Seminole Expressway, State Road 417, and the airport. Seminole County Commissioner Bob Dilawri has been a real champion and advocate for this potential direct link from State Road 417. And, like Tom, as you were discussing, he understands what that means to the community and the potential it has for really contributing to that economic development around the Orlando Sanford International Airport.
And you're speaking of County Commissioner Bob Delary, and we're in the city of Sanford here, and
Yes.
we have our Economic Development Director
Yes.
speaking because I'd say a large part or most of this study or area would be located in the city limits. But we are partnering, correct, Tom? Is
Oh
that
yeah,
potentially? Yeah.
yeah. What I want to do is now is as good a time as any to just give a real shout out to our county partners for their leadership and actually kicking off this study portion of it. I kind of jumped ahead when I talked about big picture just a moment ago, right? It's still in the study phase. However, I get excited about what it might look like once it's actually built. And there's no doubt that it's one of those things that I would call kind of floor tilters for the entire city, meaning that we're going to tilt the floor in an area of increased prosperity, increased commerce, and we think that that CFX connector may be one of the one of the probably at the top two, if not the number one variable that could really have that airport blossom into its full potential.
I have a question. So, what is it not working the way it is now? Is that what's the
Yeah, good question, Lisa. No, the airport's working just great.
not
and we
the but the traffic and the roadway
Well,
portion of it?
currently the way a passenger, let's say someone's coming from Metro Orlando to catch, let's say, an Allegiant flight, they would take the 417 to East Lake Mary Boulevard and get off. By virtue of having this ramp that's almost a direct connection from the 417 to Red Cleveland, right at the front entrance of the airport, that's going to shave some time off. It's going to shave traffic lights off, and like I said, it's great for moving the people. I think most people understand the 417 is great at moving people and cars, but an exciting component of this is the freight aspect, is the ability to move freight a lot quicker throughout Metro Orlando, connect to I-4, connect to the interstate system throughout Florida and then the southeast U.S.
Right, because how many passengers now use this Orlando Sanford International Airport a year? I mean, it's
Yeah, it's pretty
in
much
and
kind
out.
of getting up to par with what it was in 2019. Obviously, the COVID
Right,
pandemic
of course.
set passenger traffic back. And as an economic developer, I certainly like to see that commercial passenger traffic, but and even maybe a little bit more exciting for me, and maybe not most people, would be to see that freight traffic increase a little bit, as well as having those kinds of outfits that the general aviation is very strong, individual aircraft at the airport, but having that freight traffic grow as well as the aviation jobs associated with basically maintaining aircraft out there is really
So
exciting.
you mean cargo flights
Yes.
and stuff? Yes.
And the other nice
Right.
thing about having this direct connect is that you would have that airport traffic, that freight traffic, that would be able to use the direct connect and then free up the local roads to the people that are just, going about their normal business. So you take that traffic off the local road. So even if you never intend to drive the direct connect, you still benefit because you have less people driving on the local roads.
Yeah, and that would make everybody happy, right?
It's a
Most
win-win
likely.
for
Yeah,
everyone.
it's a win-win. Yeah, yeah. So, so the area, is there, how can the public learn more about it or participate, know about the study? How does it relate to, our public?
Sure. So this is really important, and we are in the outreach and we stage of it now. We want input from the public. We had recently sent out a kickoff mailing to more than 1,300 residents in the area. We are holding stakeholder meetings with businesses and larger property owners in the area, with our local, government colleagues. And what we would like folks to do is to go on to the study webpage, which they can find under the Project and Studies tab at cfxway.com. Again, that's cfxway.com. And also email us. One of the easiest ways to get information and to be added to the study stakeholder base so they get information is to email us at conceptstudies@cfxway.com. cfxway.com. Once again, it's concept studies, plural, at cfxway.com.
So, yes, thank you for that, Kathy. And so, what is the actual space that we're talking about, area or corridor that we're talking about? And you said it was mailed to 1,300 people. So, I guess those are the folks that live in the vicinity of this.
Exactly.
The corridor that's being studied.
Right. So, there are residents that would be, I don't want to say the word affected, but it would benefit them because why? They're being notified because of what is the purpose of that?
Well, we notify them, one, to be aware of the study, and then two, also to encourage their input, because we rely on the input from the community, really to make sure that we're moving forward in a desirable manner, that everybody's informed about it, everybody has a chance to weigh in on it, and at the end of the day, you'll have a better product. The more people that participate in the study will help us make better decisions moving forward.
Okay, are we doing in-person meetings at some point with the community?
Yes, so we are planning a meeting probably in May of 2023, and all those folks who had received the kickoff letter will receive an invitation. We have in-person and virtual meetings, so pretty easy to participate. And again, anybody who is interested who did not receive a kickoff letter, or maybe they even did, please email us at conceptstudies@cfxway.com and ask to be put into this studies database.
Okay, Tom, you were going to say something?
Yeah, Lisa, I wanted to add something. Brian said something really important just a few moments ago about how if this roadway does indeed get built, it's going to alleviate the local roads in terms of traffic, because now there's this more direct connect right into the airport, and that's a very important thing for our local residents, right, that utilize these roads to travel somewhere, is that this is going to help alleviate some of that traffic. But I also want to point out kind of a sidebar to that, and that's the fact that we do have a lot of residents on East Lake Mary Boulevard. As a matter of fact, as we speak right now, there's construction going on, site preparation for the new Publix that will be built on the corner of 46 and East Lake Mary Boulevard. And that Publix is going because they recognize that there's a market need for a grocery store anchored center out there. What I wanted to mention is that if we can get this 417 connector built, it's also very helpful to all those residents that live on East Lake Mary Boulevard, because think of it this way: if you have a household out there that has, let's say, a two-earner household, one person, let's say, that works in Sanford, right? They take the local roads, and we talked about how the local roads will be freed up a little bit, to their place of employment in Sanford. But let's say the other earner in that household works in Metro Orlando somewhere. Well, that labor market in Metro Orlando has become a lot easier to access by virtue of having this very large, I'll just call it the very large off-ramp to the 417 to basically access that. So there's all kinds of little secondary considerations that would be good for the community.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great point. So study goals. Can we share with the public what it is that your goals are for this study?
Sure, absolutely. So, of course, the main goal is to give people an easier access to the Orlando Sanford International Airport. That's goal number one. It is to ease traffic flow in the area of State Road 417 and the airport. And it's also then to help bolster economic development in the Sanford and Seminole County area.
Okay, and I see here too to promote regional connectivity. And
Absolutely.
I know you talk about that a lot, Tom, as an economic development person, is the regional connectivity aspect.
Yeah, and I think that, just one point about that is we anytime an economic development project comes forward, and let's say this is a company that we may not even know their name, they come in under kind of secretive code names in economic development circles, but they come to town and we just know it as Project X. And Project X wants to know that, okay, they want to have access onto an airfield because they're in that kind of industry. And the first thing they do is they look at Metro Orlando as a whole, All right, they look at the state of Florida first. They say, well, Metro Orlando has the things we need. Labor is always at the top of that list. Do I have the labor resource here to do what I need to get done? But then the next part is Metro Orlando. You sell them on Metro Orlando, and to anything that we can do to get connected to the larger region is that old saying of a rising tide raises all the boats, and this does serve to do that.
Yeah. So what is the time frame? I have that question of this big picture project, and just curious about. And I'm coming from a layman's perspective here. Obviously, we have the land to do that, or the space to create this new exit. Is that right? Or new ramp, correct? And that's part, or is that part of the study?
And that's part of the study. So in this concept study, they look at the area. There is a study area, a corridor that they're looking in. And so the study corridor is approximately a 2-mile long extension of State Road 417 in the vicinity of the Seminole Toll Plaza there on State Road 417. It extends northeastward to East Lake Mary Boulevard in the vicinity of the entrance to the Orlando International Airport,
Right,
Orlando Sanford International Airport.
Because right
in
now,
Cleveland.
Tom, or whomever wants to take this, you get off, if you're going north on 417, you take the East Lake Mary Boulevard exit to get to the airport.
That's right.
And that'll take you directly to the front door of the airport, or the intersection for the airport.
It
So-
requires going through some lights.
Yeah,
right?
traffic lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so, and at the same time, a lot of residents take that same exit to get home after work or to and from whatever their daily lives are. So the
Right.
point is like you said, to alleviate that.
Yeah, and I think
Traffic.
our guests could maybe talk a little bit more about the fact that there's two huge components to a roadway project of this scale. Is one is you have to find the right lineup of the land, and so there's a right of way. And then number two, you have to build it. So those are the two big components.
And also make sure that you're going to have the traffic to be able to finance and operate and maintain the roadway.
Because
So
there will be, obviously, it's a toll road to 417. So
Correct.
that's. Did you want to say?
Yeah,
something, Brian?
it will have to pay for itself It will have to pay for itself ultimately.
Right.
And that's the economic financial feasibility of whether we move forward with this or not. That's a definite component of this. So right now, we're at the concept feasibility and mobility phase of this. If it is accepted and it moves forward, then it will go to the
project development.
yeah, PD&E, Project Development and Environmental Study. So that would be the next phase. And then ultimately, just think of it, this corridor, this wide corridor, as it moves through these phases, narrows and narrows until you have an alignment through it.
Yeah.
And then once that's accepted, then it will go into design and
I see.
then into ultimately construction. So this is a multi-year effort. This isn't something that we, if it gets passed and moves forward, that we're going to start building it next year. This is something that will take a number of years to actually build if it goes through all the phases and if they're
Right.
approved.
And Lisa, let me give you just a really quick summation of what this study does. In this study, within this study area, the team is developing and analyzing multiple potential alignments for this connector. Now, in this next study phase, if the CFX board approves the results of the concept study, it will then move into that next study phase. They will do a deeper dive into analyzing those alternatives and then come up with a preferred alternative. That's where they select and say, okay, this is what we recommend where this connector should be. What will be important in this May meeting, the public meeting, all that information will be brought to the public for their input. Their input then goes into helping refine the information about the alternatives, and that moves to that next project development and environment study phase. And then
Yeah.
eventually into design.
Right
which
now.
will even further narrow it. So
Right. Now, can I ask who is funding these studies?
The Central Florida Expressway.
They are.
Authority.
yeah,
Okay.
this is in our work plan
I see.
to study this. So
And then and you said that at the end the project will have to be funded or would be funded if it is
it
if
will
it
have
gets
to
through all
ultimately
these
pay
studies
for
and
itself.
pay
Yeah.
for itself. And you mean by that because a lot of people don't, the average citizen, including me, I think, don't realize when you're paying those tolls. I've heard this. It pays for the build of the road. Is that correct? Is that incorrect? Because that's why or the maintenance of the roads and things.
The existing expressway that we collect tolls on
Yes.
pays for the maintenance of the roads as well as the future expansions that we have. Central Florida is one of the fastest growing regions in the country, so we have tremendous need for roads and infrastructure, and this project really plays a key component of that to make sure that the people that live, work here can get around efficiently to work and to their life activities.
Yes, and can we explain how the city and the county governments partner or what their role is with the Expressway Authority in a like I know that could be a long conversation, but maybe the 101 of how the city government and the county government work with your Expressway Authority to make this happen.
I'll
In a
I'll,
nutshell,
I'll, I'll attempt it in a nutshell, but I'll certainly I'll certainly ask
yeah.
Brian to elaborate.
Yeah.
So I mean, you have three primary parties at the table, right? You have CFX; they're leading this study, and their primary source of revenue is revenue gathered from tolls. And number two, you have Seminole County, who took a leadership role in looking at this corridor. Kathy just mentioned Commissioner Bob DeLaria at the beginning of this podcast. And then you have the city. And so as part of their economic feasibility component of this study, all these kinds of details have to be worked out. The exciting thing from this economic developer's perspective is that we're looking at something that has all the potential in the world to make a big difference.
That's great. Maybe we should end it on that note. Is there any, this project could make a big difference, another big difference in the city of Sanford in this region. Yes. Is there any, is there any things that you'd like to share, Les?
Well,
Leslie,
we
Kathy?
really do want the public's input. So once again, if people would like information about this, go to the CFX website at cfxway.com and reach out to us. Email us at conceptstudies@cfxway.com.
Yes, and we will have this on the city website shortly too, sanfordfl.gov clearly as a partner here. And Brian, any last words?
Yeah, and if anybody ever wants us out to talk about this, we're here to do that. So if there's any groups that want to learn more about it, we'll go out and we'll meet with them and share information and get their feedback. So we, again, really
Absolutely.
encourage folks to reach out to us, and we're here to listen and help provide information.
Yeah, I feel like the 417 is like the part of Sanford, a fabric of Sanford, because we have how many exits are actually off the 417 in the city of Sanford. So it's like 417 and Sanford go like hand in hand almost these days. But what do you have to say about?
Well,
anything,
one thing
Tom?
I will say is big picture stuff. This is such an interesting project because it's connecting two major modes of transportation. One is an airport, and then obviously the 417 is a limited access freeway, which is able to move people and goods and volume throughout the region. And so just having the simple better connection between these two major modes of transportation is a big deal. For the same reason that Sunrail is a big deal for the city of Sanford and the region, is that it's another kind of mode, rail.
Yeah.
And I will tell you that maybe a future podcast we talk about the potential for rail connecting at that very same airport.
Yeah. Well, that's one good thing about the city of Sanford. We do have transportation options, don't we, here? 417, the airport, we have Sunrail, we have I-4, the waterfront, right, Tom? Am I learning my economic development?
I couldn't say it better, Lisa. You're doing so well.
All right. Well, there you have it. You've heard about the State Road 417 to Orlando Sanford International Airport connector. How exciting. This is a study that we hope you participate in. And if you're not from this area, just still check it out. Go online, learn about it, and learn something new. Thank you for listening. This is Lisa Holder, Chief Communications and Cultural Affairs Administrator for the City of Sanford. You can find this podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on the city website at sanfordfl.gov. It's the end of the year. This will be our last podcast for 2022. We wish everybody a happy holiday season and a happy new year. We'll see you in a few weeks. Take care now. Bye.